The council chamber was filled with cold eyes and mocking grins. Lyra stood in the center wearing a neutral robe that covered the pride of her warrior blood. She had been summoned not for punishment, nor for honor, but for amusement. The elders had chosen her for a task that no one wanted. They called it an experiment, but everyone knew it was a joke in disguise. A punishment wrapped in laughter. A trap disguised as a gift. Across the stars on a lonely outpost lived a human named Tom. He worked alone, surrounded by machines and silence. He was an engineer who fixed broken systems and kept power lines alive on an abandoned research base. His requests for transfer were always ignored. No one cared what happened at that dusty edge of space. The aliens did not respect humans. To them, humans were weak, simple, short-lived. They saw humans as animals with tools. Something to observe and maybe control, but never to understand. So they decided to send Lyra to Tom. Not as a guest, not as an enemy, but as a bride. A joke bride. That was the term they used in their records. Nothing more than a cruel prank played on both sides. Lyra was not given a choice. She was handed a pack of supplies, a translation device, and an order. Stay with the human. Observe. Return when the time is right. No one told her how long it would be. No one cared what she felt. She was just a pawn in a game played by arrogant minds who thought themselves above all others. When she arrived at the human outpost, the silence wrapped around her like a second skin. The place was quiet, empty, too clean. Tom stood at the entrance, wearing worn clothes and tired eyes. He was surprised but not afraid. He greeted her with a nod and moved aside to let her in. No questions, no anger, no strange looks. Just a quiet welcome and space to breathe. Lyra expected shouting or commands. Instead, she found a kitchen with food, a bed already made, and tools neatly arranged on the wall. Tom did not speak much. He pointed to things when she looked confused. He showed her how the water system worked. He gave her a key to her own room. That night she stayed awake, expecting something to happen. Nothing did. Days passed slowly. Lyra did not try to talk. Tom did not force her to. He spent his time fixing broken machines and writing reports that no one read. Lyra watched him from a distance. He moved with calm hands. He worked like someone who had no reason to rush. It made no sense to her. Why was he not angry or proud, or at least curious? She began testing him, breaking small parts on purpose, moving things around, refusing food. But Tom stayed the same. He fixed the parts without comment, cleaned up the mess, cooked extra meals just in case she changed her mind. He never touched her, never shouted, never asked why she did what she did. One evening a storm rolled in. The wind screamed across the outpost and the power lines went dead. Lyra stood near the door watching the sky. Tom was already in his coat grabbing his tools. He looked at her once, then walked outside into the chaos. She followed without thinking. The storm was wild. Sharp metal pieces flew through the air and the cold burned her skin. Tom worked fast, tying lines back together, holding wires with bare hands and ignoring the blood on his knuckles. Lyra pulled a panel shut before it could rip off the wall. Together, they saved the outpost from blackout. Not a word passed between them. Only action. Later, in the quiet warmth of the main hall, Tom gave her a blanket. His hands shook from the cold, but he smiled faintly. That was the first time Lyra looked at him not as a target or a victim, but as something else. She did not know what, not yet. But the change had begun. Far away on their homeworld, the council watched the screens with laughter. They saw her fixing wires and sleeping in silence. They thought their joke was going well. They had no idea what was growing between the lines. No one saw the storm inside Lyra's heart. Not yet, but it had started. Lyra woke early each morning, without setting a time. Her body had learned the rhythm of this place. The outpost was quiet, but not dead. It breathed in small sounds, The low hum of machines, the soft steps of Tom walking from room to room, the quiet drip of water in the pipes. There was no war here, no training, no orders. Only calm routine. She still did not speak much. Words seemed useless here. Tom never asked questions that required answers. He showed her how things worked using hands and small nods. He let her try tools without mocking her. When she broke a valve by mistake, he fixed it without blame. When she slipped and fell during a task, he offered a hand and walked away after helping. He never stared, never laughed. Lyra began to wonder if he even understood what she was. Back home she was known for her strength, her skill in combat, her proud bloodline. Here none of that mattered. Tom treated her like she was just someone trying to survive. At first it felt like insult, now it felt like peace. One day, while repairing the lower pipes, Tom cut his hand on sharp metal. Blood ran down his palm, but he wrapped it in cloth without sound. Lyra stood nearby watching. She wanted to look away, but something inside her would not let her. She stepped forward, took his hand, and fixed the wrap using the proper method. He looked at her with calm eyes, not surprised, not proud, just thankful. That night Lyra sat near the small fire in the common room. She watched the flames, but her mind was far away. She thought of the council and their plan. They had sent her here, expecting shame or failure. They wanted her to feel weak. But she did not feel weak. She felt something else, something she had no word for. The next day, a storage unit malfunctioned. Heavy crates fell and nearly crushed a power core. Tom pulled Lyra away just in time. His arm wrapped around her waist, and for a moment they were close, very close. Her heart pounded not from fear, but from the strange warmth that spread through her chest. Tom let go and checked her for injuries. She was fine, but something inside her had changed. They spent more time together after that. Not by force, but by choice. She helped with repairs. He helped her adjust her gear. She cleaned the living space without being asked. He cooked meals that matched her needs. Sometimes they sat in silence, drinking hot liquid and watching the stars through the glass. Lyra began to talk slowly in small pieces. She asked about Earth. He answered in simple words. He asked about her world. She paused, then shared fragments. They did not trade secrets, they shared truths. One evening, while cleaning the main power room, Tom found an old music player. He fixed it and played a slow melody. Lyra had never heard such sound. It was not a war song or a command chant. It was soft and deep and full of feeling. She closed her eyes and listened. Her fingers curled slightly as the music filled the air. Tom watched her but said nothing. Lyra remembered the stories of her ancestors. None had ever sat with a human like this. None had ever chosen peace when war was easier. She thought of her mother, who always said strength was in control, not chaos. For the first time those words made sense. Tom never tried to impress her. He never tried to win her trust. He simply stayed kind, stayed present, stayed honest. Lyra found herself looking for him when he was out of sight. She waited for his steps. She listened for his laugh, rare and soft but real. Outside their walls, the universe kept spinning. The council still watched and laughed. They believed they held the strings. They thought they were in control. But they did not see what was growing. Here, something quiet, something slow, something powerful. Lyra stood one morning near the window watching the sunrise. Tom stood beside her holding 2 cups of warm liquid. She took one without a word. Their fingers brushed lightly. Neither pulled away. She looked at him and for the first time smiled. Not with pride, not with mockery, but with something true. The joke was starting to slip from the hands of those who created it. Something real was rising in its place. Time moved without loud noise. Days passed like water slipping through open hands. The outpost changed with each passing moment, but only in quiet ways. Lyra no longer counted the days. She stopped marking the walls. Her focus had shifted from leaving to living. The coldness inside her chest had begun to warm. Tom still spoke little, but his silence felt different now. It was no longer empty. It held weight. It held meaning. Every time he handed her a tool or shared a meal, she felt the steady beat of trust building between them. No orders, no demands. Just a calm rhythm growing stronger. Lyra had never believed in slow things. Her world had trained her for speed. Strike before thought. Act before doubt. But here she learned to move slower. She began to notice the color of the sky at dusk, the soft thrum of engines starting after repair, the way Tom looked at broken things. Not with frustration, but patience. One morning Lyra fell sick. Her head burned. Her body shook. She tried to hide it. Her kind saw weakness as failure. But Tom noticed. He placed a hand on her shoulder and led her to the med bay. He stayed by her side without speaking. He brought water, cleaned her skin, checked the monitor every hour. He never left the room. 3 full cycles passed before she could stand again. During those cycles, Tom did everything. Repairs, maintenance, food, cleaning. Then he returned to her side. Again and again. Without rest, without question. When she asked him why he did this, he only said that no one should be alone in pain. Lyra could not speak for a while after hearing that. No one had ever told her such words. Not in her home, not in training, not in war. Alone was always the way. Yet here he was proving something else. She began to watch him differently. Not with cold eyes or curious ones, but with eyes that felt full of something she had never known before. When he smiled, she felt it in her chest. When he laughed, she wanted to hear it again. When he worked, she wanted to help, not out of duty but out of care. Began sharing stories more often. Short stories at first. Memories of childhood. Fragments of dreams. Lyra told him about her brother lost in a training accident. Tom told her about his father who used to build machines from junk. Their words were simple, but their meanings ran deep. One night the power flickered and they lit emergency lamps. The soft light made the room glow in strange orange color. They sat on the floor eating from metal bowls. Tom looked at her and asked if she missed her world. Lyra stayed silent, then said no, not really. Her voice did not shake. She meant what she said. After that night, something changed between them. Not through words, not through action, but through a feeling that wrapped around them like invisible thread. They worked side by side, cleaned, shared meals, fixed problems. She noticed his hands more now, rough, strong, steady. He noticed her laugh, which came more easily now, like a breeze breaking through a heavy sky. One morning, Tom brought her a small plant growing in a glass box. He said it needed care and light. Lyra held the box and looked at the green leaves. Life in such a small space. Yet it grew. That plant sat on her table, and every day she touched it softly, like it was something sacred. As weeks passed, the bond between them became something neither of them could explain. There was no ceremony, no promise, no dramatic moment. Only small things. A hand placed gently on a shoulder. A meal cooked with her favorite spice. A moment of shared silence after a long day. One evening they sat on the rooftop. Stars covered the sky like silver dust. Tom pointed to one and told her the name of the system it belonged to. Lyra leaned closer. Her shoulder touched his. He did not move away. She spoke in a soft voice. She said she no longer wanted to return. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Tom turned his head. He looked into her eyes. No words were needed. That night their fingers met under the starlight. No one watched. No one laughed. No one judged. Only the stars knew what was happening. Something old had broken inside Lyra. Something new had taken root. Not forced. Not planned. Not part of any mission. A feeling real and deep. Far away the council still watched, but they had grown bored. They believed the joke was fading. They planned to bring her back soon. But they had no idea what had begun. and Lyra did not care what they planned anymore. A signal arrived in the middle of the day. Lyra stood near the control panel when the light flashed red. She knew what it meant before Tom could say a word. The council had sent for her. Her time was up. The so-called experiment had reached its end. She was expected to return home. Tom looked at her with calm eyes. He asked if she was going to leave. Lyra said nothing for a long time. Her hands rested on the edge of the console. She felt the metal under her skin, but not the weight of it. What she felt was deeper. She turned to him and nodded once. There was no lie in her heart. She had to go back, but not for their reasons. Tom did not try to stop her. He helped her pack the few things she owned. He placed the small plant in a travel case. She watched him move and felt her chest tighten. He said she could return any time. She gave him one long look. Her eyes spoke for her. The transport arrived the next morning. No words were exchanged with the pilot. The ship lifted silently and vanished into the black sky. Lyra sat alone near the window. Her hand rested gently over her belly. A soft heartbeat pulsed within, a second life growing. A new story already forming. She reached her homeworld after 2 long days. The council chamber was exactly as she remembered. Cold walls, sharp eyes, no warmth, no welcome. She stepped into the center as ordered. Elders stared at her with folded arms. They expected shame. They expected silence. But Lyra stood tall. One of the elders asked her what she had learned. She looked at him without fear. She spoke with a steady voice. She said the human they mocked was more honorable than anyone in the room. She said he had given her safety, respect, and truth. She said their joke had become her home. Gasps filled the air. But she did not stop. She stepped forward and placed her hand over her belly. Then she told them about the child. The room fell into stillness. No one moved. No one spoke. Their silence was no longer made of control. It was made of shock. An elder shouted that this was not possible. Another demanded the child be removed for study. A third called her unclean. Lyra did not flinch. She stared into their eyes. She told them the child was not for them. She told them she would not let this life become their next experiment. She had played their game. Now it was over. The council fell into argument. Voices clashed like swords. Some wanted punishment. Others feared the child. A few whispered about the strength of humans. Some feared what this union might mean for the balance of power. But none dared touch her. Not yet. Lyra left the chamber without permission. Guards followed, but kept their distance. She went to the old docks where her own private ship had once been kept. It was still there, covered in dust but functional. She climbed in and powered it up. Alarms rang, but she ignored them. No one dared stop her. As she broke through the sky, she sent one message to Tom, a single line: coming home. He received the message late at night. He stood at the edge of the outpost watching the stars. His hands were cold, but his eyes were bright. He smiled. 2 days later her ship landed. Dust rose around them as the ramp opened. Tom stepped forward. Lyra stood there with her hand resting again on her belly. He walked to her. No words were needed. They returned inside. Together, the outpost felt warmer, fuller. Lyra placed the plant back on her table. Tom checked the systems. She watched him and breathed deeply. She was not a joke. She was not a mistake. She was someone who had chosen her own path. Far away, the council remained in silence. Their plan had failed. Their joke had become truth. And now they feared what might come next. But Lyra did not fear. She had found something greater than pride or power. She had found a future. Life on the outpost returned to its quiet rhythm, but now each day carried new meaning. Lyra moved through the halls with calm strength. Her hand often rested on her growing belly. Tom stayed near as always. He spoke little, yet his presence brought comfort. They did not need many words anymore. Their actions spoke louder. The child grew fast. Lyra felt every shift, every kick, every change within her body. She had faced battles, storms, commands, yet nothing felt as powerful as the life growing inside her. It was not just her blood, not just Tom's gift. It was something new. A child born not from control or duty, but from choice. Tom built new space inside the outpost. He expanded the living quarters, made room for the baby, added soft lights, clean air, safer panels. Lyra watched him work. Sometimes she helped, sometimes she sat and just watched. Her eyes followed every motion of his hands. These were the same. Hands that had saved her during a storm, helped her. During illness, held her without fear. A message came from Earth. Some officials had heard of the child. Rumors had started to spread across nearby colonies. Mixed species child born from human and alien. Unheard of, impossible. But now real. Earth wanted to study them. Not with cruelty, but with interest. They offered a safer home, a protected place. A future with support. Lyra and Tom talked for many hours. They did not want labs or cages or attention. They wanted peace. So they chose a neutral colony, far from both Earth and the alien council. A place with open fields, clean sky, and no watchers. They left the outpost behind. Tom saved all his records. Lyra left only one message in the system. We are not your story anymore. The colony welcomed them. Simple people, kind eyes, no questions. Lyra gave birth in a small clinic under natural light. The child arrived without trouble. Small hands, wide eyes, skin touched by both her worlds. A daughter. She named her Mira, a name that meant light. Tom held the baby first. His hands shook. He had fixed machines, lifted metal, fought storms, but now he held something far greater. Lyra watched him with soft eyes. She had seen him as stranger, partner, protector, but now she saw him as father. Mira grew fast. She laughed early. She walked before others her age. She asked questions that made both parents smile. Her mind sharp, her heart strong, her eyes bright. She ran through the grass, chased birds, touched stars, through a glass roof at night. Other settlers came to know her. They saw in her something pure. Not just a child of human and alien, but a sign. A symbol. Proof that walls could fall, that hate could fade, that two lives could build one path. Back on the councils, world silence ruled. Their experiment had broken. The joke bride had rewritten the script. Fear ran through their halls. Whispers spoke. Of new alliances, of humans rising, of old power fading. They tried to erase the records, but it was too late. Lyra's story had spread. One message leaked from the outpost logs and flew across space. Pilots whispered it in cantinas. Engineers shared it in deep space stations. A warrior sent as a joke who returned with love and a child. Now she was no longer their tool. She was legend. Lyra spent her days teaching Mira how to climb, how to balance, how to listen. Tom built small machines for her to take apart. At night they sat under the stars as a family. No council, no orders, no watchers. One evening, Mira pointed to the sky. She asked where her mother came from. Lyra smiled. She said from a place that thought strength meant control. Mira asked what it meant now. Tom answered. He said strength means choosing kindness when you could choose power. Years passed. The child grew strong and wise. Her story reached far corners. She did not belong to one world. She belonged to both. She carried a future that no council could control. And Lyra never forgot the moment she first met Tom at the gate. A man who said nothing but gave everything. She had arrived as a joke. She had returned with life. Now she lived with purpose. Story was not one of war. It was one of quiet fire. And that fire would never fade. The end.